All right, hello and welcome back to the Worldwide Wolves podcast. We're inching ever closer to actual basketball. We've got Media Day coming up next week, and we're going to be doing 10 questions, just basically one for all of the 10 core players here. It should be fun, but Jake, Worldwide Wolves, I almost forgot to do a little bit of introduction here. I'm from Pittsburgh, or I'm in Pittsburgh. You're from Australia. Things are good. How is Australia, and what have you got going on today?
Yeah, so today is what I would say is Super Bowl Sunday. So obviously the AFL is our version of NFL. It's a different sport, but it's our football league. It's a better sport. I'll say that. And yeah, my team's in it for the third time in a row, looking for our second win in a row. We're playing my partner's team, so it's a big day in this household. I'm very nervous. I am sweaty, and I might be divorced by the end of the day. So it's a big day here, but I'm looking forward to starting off my day by talking some Wolves.
Good, yes. And if you do get divorced, it's more time for Wolves Pod, so that's my cheering outcome. All right. I'm gonna be presenting us with just a question on each of the core 10 players here. Since we're going into media day, I figured, hey, they're gonna be getting asked questions. If we're obviously not gonna be there, we live far away. But if we were, what kind of questions might we be asking? And we can just jump right into it. I guess we'll go. I don't know if it's best player to worst, but it's Anthony Edwards, Julius, Gobert, McDaniels down to TJ Shannon and guys like that. So I'll start us off with Anthony Edwards. I'll ask you a question. You can kind of I don't know if reply is the right word, but just we can get into it and
Yeah,
go back and
yeah,
forth a little bit. But just on Anthony Edwards, a question that is kind of rattling around my mind that maybe I would ask to him is something like, what does he think the next step looks like for him and the team to kind of take the next step into becoming a championship team? Because for us, we think about mid-range game transition, but Anthony Edwards has a mind that works in mysterious ways sometimes. So I do wonder, in his mind, does he think it's the same where it's this, mid-range transition, or does he have other things in mind? And if that's the case, what might that be? Like last week, we discussed conditioning, but just beyond
Mhm.
that, I guess, what might, you know, those next steps be for a guy like Anthony Edwards, besides maybe what we've touched on, I think, on surface level, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's a weird one because obviously, if we were asking him, I think he'd reply with the utmost confidence, like he does with everything. For us, I think it's yeah. How does he continue to get better? Because we we know that this team probably isn't going to win the championship unless Ant takes another sizable leap. And we've said before, it feels unfair sometimes to just expect him to keep leveling up to these extremes every season. But that is what you need, I guess. You need a top 5, 6 player to win a championship, or you need a super team to win a championship. And I don't think the Wolves quite have a super team, but they do have a player who is capable of leveling up to that level. So, what do we want to see from him? I think it's still the same things that we've touched on, littered throughout the offseason. We want to see him find more spots on the court to score from the mid range. I mean, Shams was reporting that he's working that post up game, which I think is probably more important than the mid range. I'm not an old school, guys should be in the post kind of person, but I do think if you're, I mean, I go back to the Denver series, 2 seasons ago, game 2, I believe, and Ant had that. There was a minute left in the game. I think the Wolves were up by maybe 6 points. It felt like the best thing ever. Like, we finally got to the playoffs. We were watching our team kind of beat the juggernaut Denver Nuggets, and there's a minute left. We need a bucket as a team, and Anthony Edwards clears out one side of the floor, tells Cat to get on the other side of the floor, posts up Contavious Caldwell Pope, backs him down 3 times, turnaround jumper, game over. Like, that is what I expect to see more of this season, where it's like, all right, I've got this spot on the floor. I don't have to come off a ball screen where every player on the opposition is going to crowd me. I don't have to, try and navigate my way through 6 bodies to get to the rim. I don't need to shoot a pull up 3. I'm going to get into this spot on the post. Julius Randle can feed me, or Mike Conley, someone there who can shoot a 3. So if their player comes to double, it's an easy 3-point shot, easy read for Ant, and you get a bucket like that. that's what I'm looking forward to seeing from Ant, and apparently that's what he's working on. So I think that's important, and I think that is something he's going to mention on Monday at media day, that's going to be a big part of his game, and that he thinks late game scoring, having more control over the offense, having a more diverse game is going to be a reason why this team can be pushed over the edge.
Yeah, I like that. Just becoming a much better scorer and from inside the rim. And obviously, he mentioned he's watching film of Kobe and Michael Jordan. Those are two guys I would also recommend if he asked me about that. So good stuff there. Very much looking forward to that. But just to keep moving here through the 10 guys, then we can get to Julius Randle. And how impactful was it going from the intense New York media landscape to a Timberwolves media landscape that is kind of building and sort of latching on to any sort of heroes that pop up in the regular season or playoffs? And how does someone like him, hope to build on that momentum? Because Julius Randle last season became kind of like a folk hero mid-season with the goosebumps
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and then in the
Yeah.
playoffs had a couple memes. And he's mentioned this offseason in a handful of stories that his last year or year and a half really in New York was just really, really rough, and he went down kind of a bad path. So I'm intrigued to see what it looks like year 2 with Julius in a landscape here, just in an environment where I do think the fans and just the culture in general are kind of rallying around him to be
Mm-hmm.
that second fiddle on a championship hopeful team. So I guess, it'd be interesting to get his perspective more on just what it's like being in a culture that's embracing him now, and how different it is, considering Minneapolis isn't New York, but the love for him maybe is more than it ever really was in New York. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that was such an awesome article by John Krasinski at the Athletic.
Yes.
Like, it's just I love an article like that gives a peek behind the curtains, because we don't know, these guys are humans, and we sit on here and we criticize them, or we praise them, or we talk about them in terms of what they do on the court, but we never really will have an idea of what's going on off the court. And that was a good glimpse into how much he was kind of struggling mentally in New York, and just with the pressure of being a big time basketball player in a big time basketball city. So obviously there's still pressure being in Minnesota. There's still pressure being on a team that is expected to go far in the playoffs, and there's still pressure being the second option to Anthony Edwards, who everyone just expects to have this meteoric rise into superstardom. But for Julius, I guess, yeah, my question is the same as yours: is how real is all the positivity that we had at the back end of last season, and the positivity in his mindset, in his mental, like how real is that, and how consistent can that translate onto the court? Because we saw him obviously go to another level in the back end of last season. We saw him go to a new level in the playoffs, where he became this really efficient. He was shooting the ball great. He was controlling the game in huge moments. He was kind of carrying this team when Anthony Edwards couldn't. And that's exactly what you expect from a second option. And obviously that kind of tailed off in the OKC series. But I guess my question is, was that a flash in the pan? Was it a burst? Was it a kind of, sprig of good form? Or is this just what Julius Randle is now? Because if that is just because I guess I've expected it to be more of that he's going to land somewhere between early season Randle and playoff Randle. And that would be a pretty good outcome, I think. But if he is playoff Randle every night, and obviously there's different matchups, they're not going to play small teams all the time. But if he is a guy who is super efficient, super reliable, tries really hard defensively, even if he's still not, a great defender, but he's a workman-like defender, shoots the ball from three really well, like, all of a sudden this team's ceiling is just so much higher. And a lot of the reservations I guess I have about this team probably fade away a little bit, because if Julius Randle's like a sub all-star, fringe all-star consistently every single night, then this team's going to be really good. So I do think Randle, obviously Ant's always the most important. I mean, you could always say from 1, 2, 3, 4, that's the list of importance as well. And we've done most important players, but I think I had Randle quite high on that list, because
Yeah.
I think Randle's very much a player that when he plays well, the team plays well. And when he plays badly, the team plays badly, because he's just such a volatile player, or he has been in the past. But if he can minimize that volatility and we get good Julius Randle all the time, which is kind of an obvious thing to say, I guess, is to say, can you just be good all the time? But how often can he be good Julius Randle? Because there is a big difference between,
Yeah.
I think the good Ant and bad Ant has shrunk that gap over the years. And I think last season was the smallest that gap's ever been. If we get a really small gap between good Randle and bad Randle, we're going to have a fun season.
Yeah, and it's with Randall, there's good and bad Randall, and both of those versions could average 20 points per game. It's a lot of it
Yeah,
based on
it's not
just
a
what else
stat.
he's
Yeah,
doing. Yeah,
it's not a
so
stats thing with him. It's a
yep,
vibe thing. It's
exactly.
he is does. I mean, Finch even said it in his interview with Britt Robson, which is again just another great read. That Randall's, if he has a problem on the court or if something's going wrong, it can affect his next playability, which I love that phrase, next playability. Where Randall can get in a funk for 3 minutes because he turned the ball over or he didn't get a foul that he wanted, or someone didn't pass him the ball when they should have. If that's gone or if that's minimized, then yeah, that only increases the ceiling of this team. It kind of makes the Randall Edwards pairing seem like a good one, and yeah, and one more thing actually on both of these guys, I want to see them play together a little bit better.
Yeah.
Like I want to see Randall and Edwards pick and roll. I want to
Ant's
see
never
Randall.
had that. Well, he's never mastered that like 1-2 connection, whether it be Towns or Randall here. So would love to
Yeah,
see that.
yeah. I mean that 4-second video of them running pick and roll with no defenders in the open gym got me excited. Where I'm like, this is a thing that could happen. Like Randall has had great 2-man connections with players before, so I think it's more on Ant that.
Yeah.
He because him and DiVincenzo have a good 2-man game. They had an even better 2-man game in New York, and I don't see why that shouldn't be a real focus. Almost at the top of the list of like, this is our opening action on every set is how can Julius and Ant do something together, and then we can flow off that. So, yeah, I'm excited for Julius.
For sure. And lots of good Wolves media these days. That Krasinski article, Britt Robson interview, Worldwide Wolves podcast, and then we'll get into the Rudy Gobert question. Yep. Rudy Gobert. I guess this is more broad and still trying to exactly nail down how to phrase it, I guess. But what can be done in the regular season to maximize his role in the playoffs? And this might sacrifice a few regular season wins, but like his defensive rating is still 103.7 in the playoffs. And I think he played 6 less minutes per game. So like, how can you maximize the regular season to then maximize him in the playoffs? Because you don't want to get into the playoffs and have to completely change your style of play, which is a, common denominator with Rudy through the years. I don't think he's necessarily like a bad player. It's just that the style doesn't translate when you get to that playoff environment. So are there things you can do in the regular season just to maybe try to mimic the style of when it comes to playoff time? And to me, I don't know how to answer that question. It's just a question that I have. Maybe you've got an answer for me, but yeah, just we've seen it time and time again where we get to the play, I guess, 3 times where you get to the playoffs and things change. And yeah, Rudy's role in the playoffs is volatile. So how can we prepare better for that?
Yeah, and it's the age-old question, isn't it, of how can you maximize Gobert in the playoffs? I think sometimes we confuse not being able to maximize Gobert with him being unplayable in the playoffs. And I don't think that's true, but I do think if Gobert isn't being maximized, it has a bigger effect than if Ant's not being maximized or if Randall isn't, because they will just kind of find a way to grind out buckets or to grind out production because that's the type of players they are. Whereas Gobert, especially offensively, I mean, I thought he was fine defensively pretty much for the whole playoffs. Better than fine. He was good, I thought.
Best net rating by a couple points on the whole team.
Yeah, his defensive
rating. Yeah.
His defensive advanced numbers were really good still. The problem is the offense. Like, I was just looking at it as you were talking. So in the playoffs, in the regular season, he's true shooting percentage relative to league average. So that's what I see on a lot of websites now, which is obviously, it's a smaller number because it's just how much above or below are you compared to a league average true shooting percentage. So he was 10.6% better than league average during the regular season, which makes sense. He dunks the ball a lot. You know, that's
He
what you
should be.
expect from that's what you expect from a big guy. In the playoffs, he was 0.2% better than the average in the playoffs. So he was pretty much the same as, his true shooting percentage was really low. He shot 30% on layups in the playoffs.
Yeah, man, I remember that.
Like,
Like Lakers series, it was like hard to believe, and
yeah,
he had the one good game, but it was like, oh my, it was unbelievable.
yeah, like his 2 point percentage was 58.2%, which is when you consider he's only shooting layups and dunks. Like it's lower than Randall's in the postseason. It's lower than it's about like what Dillingham's was in the regular season. Like that's so. How can I guess the only thing I have to think about with Gobert, because obviously some of it's just play better. Again, like we can just say play better for everyone, but
Right.
they obviously need to find ways to get him the ball more. And again, Finch mentioned that with Britt, but like they just need to. It needs to get better. They need to get, because if he's going to be on the court, there's times where I would just prefer him to not be on the court because I want more offense. And I think everyone's had that feeling in the game that, Rudy's just mucking things up here. Like he probably needs to sit down for 5 minutes and let's just get some offense in there. The other option to not have to do that all the time is let's find ways to feed Gobert. I still think that running more actions is the way to do it. I think that having specific actions that end in an Anthony Edwards or an Anthony Edwards lob to Gobert, or
Yep.
like the whole play is designed to draw the defense away from a Gobert role, and then Ant knows that when I get into this position, coming off this screen or coming off this action, my option here is to throw the ball to Rudy. And there might be turnovers coming with that if Ant's not quite reading the defense properly. But I think I would prefer that, if they kind of if there was a little few more turnovers for a bit more profit as well, and just to try and switch that mentality with Edwards, with Randall as well, where it's just like, we're going to run you off this action. You're either going to have a layup or you're going to have a Gobert lob, but we want you to look for the Gobert lob because this is what that action is designed for. So I
And then
don't know.
sink or swim for Rudy. If he can't do it, go
Yeah,
away from it, but try.
and then it's Rudy's fault. You know what I
Yep.
mean? It's not that they can't keep having the conversation that, well, we don't get Rudy the ball enough. Like if they run, say, 4 different actions twice a game, so they run 8 actions to the game that are all designed to get Rudy a lob. If he's not getting 10 points from that action, then that's on him.
Yep. You can go away
uh,
from it, and he can't be upset about it.
yeah, and it will open the floor up for Gobert, for Ant and for Randall to, if defenses are just thinking that they might throw a lob at the last second, that will just be huge for their game as well and for the spacing around the rim. So yeah, I guess that's the question with Rudy, is how can they involve him more? How can he, involve himself and pay back that faith if they do have it in him? And how can he, again, minimize the gap between regular season Rudy and playoff Rudy?
Yeah, it's the age-old question, as you said, but one that I feel the Wolves are getting a little bit closer to hopefully answering here as they continue to grow as a team and with Rudy here. But on to Jaden McDaniels, if I could kind of ask him a question about the summer, just this season, I guess I'd kind of want to probe on the working out with Kawhi Leonard, maybe ask something like, what did he learn about maybe maximizing his offensive potential while still remaining an elite defender on this team? And did he get any monetary contract advice from Kawhi? But mainly the offensive stuff, just, sorry.
I hope not. I do hope not. Luckily, Glenn Taylor's not still in town to, just he'd be licking his lips at this.
Yes, I had to do it. I had to. But anyways, yeah, just on Kawhi, it's been a player comparison, kind of, I don't want to say in jest, but more of like a top tier, top 1% player comp for Jaden McDaniels, the Kawhi Leonard comparison.
Mm-hmm.
But this summer, the pictures came out. He's working out with him. So yeah, just, what kind of things did he learn about being able to be a really good offensive player while still being an elite defender? Because I do think, Kawhi, he averages like 25 to 27 points when he's on. Like he's one of the best offensive players in the game, one of the best defensive players in the game. I don't expect Jaden to be that, but if Jaden can just be an above average offensive player consistently, that would open up a lot for this Wolves team. So just, going into this year, how does he see that role emerging more for him? And is that something he sees emerging for him maybe? Because obviously he's not in a position like Kawhi where he needs to be the number 1 or 2. He's more like the number 3 at best. So yeah, it's intriguing to see those two kind of together and wondering what kind of potential maybe Jaden can try to unlock on the offensive end, because defensively, he's going to continue being one of the best in the league. So yeah, what does it look like
Yeah,
that side?
I mean, that's, you know me, like I'm obsessed with this at the moment. I'm obsessed with what can Jaden. I just think that he is the swing still for this team. He's the X factor that I don't know which way it goes, because I just still think. I mean, Jaden's not going to average 20 a night probably, and he's not going to be the second option on a championship team. But I think they need to start testing the waters a bit more. Like, can he be a third option on a championship team? Because a third option, it feels like a third option should be, one of the best players in the league. You're on a championship team. I don't think a third option always has to be Miami Chris Bosh. I don't know who was the Thunder's
Right.
third option.
Chet.
Chet probably, and that's a really good one, I guess. But
Yeah.
can you beat Chet offensively?
Well,
you know,
Pacers. Who's the Pacers? Is it Halliburton? I mean, no, he's
yeah. Well, I mean they're a weird team, aren't they? Like,
yeah. I
because
mean, they're
he's like
all
the
like the
first.
third option.
Yeah, he's like the first option and the fifth option.
Right.
But like if we're talking like playoffs, like Chet averaged 15 points. You know what I mean? During the season, he averaged 15 points. The season before, obviously, he was less injured. He averaged 16.5 points. 8 boards. He's obviously a great defender. And they're different players. I'm not saying be the same player as Chet, but can you give you the
Right.
same offensive production as Chet, where you can make threes, but you can also take a player off the drive. They can give you the ball and they and say, Chet's going to create for 8 possessions a night, where we're just going to do Chet possessions. Is that something Jaden can do? I think yes. I think Finch thinks yes from what he's been saying. I mean, he's been talking about secondary ball handling, using him to fill some of the Nikhil role offensively. Like, that excites me, because I still think Jaden is a confidence player. I think when you see when this team has injuries and they say, Jaden, we're going to trust you to do it. And, he has 26 points in the first game without Randall and Gobert and DiVincenzo. He gets a month. He squeezes a month of good production out of that, one confidence builder. So can they do that? And can they keep him confident without relying on it being like, we need you to hit 37% from three? Because I'm not sure that's going to happen. And if it does happen, great. If he's a better corner shooter, that's awesome for this team. But they need more from Jaden, and they need to empower him to do more. So I'm super excited to see what they can do with Jaden offensively, and whether they can, mix up his role a little bit defensively as well, and let him not take plays off, but kind of be like that
Right.
Draymond Green backline roaming defender who can cause mayhem without having to just be on the ball every single possession, which is like taxing. I think it's hard to be like, oh, let's score 17 points a night and also guard Luka every single possession. So, I wonder. I think if you're talking about role on the team, I think Jaden, like, first game of preseason, that's who I'm watching for the game. Like, I just want to see what they're doing with Jaden. If he sits in the corner for 80% of the possessions still, or if it's like, Jaden's going to run 12 pick and rolls tonight, because we think that it's efficient enough to not be like do they still think if Jaden ran 12 pick and rolls, would it be trying something new that might not work? Like, would it equate to the same as like, we're going to give Rob Dillingham 20 minutes tonight? Or would it be like, hey, we just think Jaden can run 12 pick and rolls every night because we think he's good enough at it. If he has a bad night, that's fine. We'll do it again for the rest of the season, because we just think that it's like a guaranteed, efficient play to run. So, I think it is. I think Finch thinks it is, to be honest, and I think Jaden really proved a lot to Finch last season, and I think we're going to see him get a big role this season.
Yeah, and I knew that would be good for you to tee off, and I was also imagining the rant if in that preseason game Jaden sits in the corner for 80% of the
Yeah,
game.
I
It'd
can
be
see
good.
myself getting annoyed if they're a team that's 20-20 and Jaden's sitting in the corner every game, because that I just and these guys know more than me, but also I just feel like yeah, like I said, he's the X factor. If Jaden pops off this season, like, I mean, talk about raising the ceiling with Randall playing well or with Gobert
Right.
getting involved. Like, I think Jaden is like, oh shit, Jaden scoring 16 points a game regularly. Like, this team is tough. So that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. All right. And then Nas Reed time. This is something we have, touched on quite a bit just with his contract, but just kind of putting it more into perspective, I guess. How challenging, I wonder, is it to continue growing your game for Nas? Just continue adding
Mm,
things and seeing himself get better every single year while not exactly seeing his role grow in turn with it, right? Like, sure, I mean, maybe he's getting a couple more minutes, but he is still the sixth man for the third year in a row. And it's obvious he's become much better than he was in the first year of that. And, obviously there's not exactly room for him in the starting lineup. And he seems to have agreed to this role by signing that very lucrative contract. Money talks. But yeah, I mean, I would like to know just the perspective on seeing your game grow and not seeing your role grow. And how do you just keep, I don't know, pushing forward? Maybe he sees or was promised that eventually he will have that power forward spot, or center spot, which I do believe. Hell, he could play the three, but
mm.
like he could start. He
Finch
could
said
start at
it.
a
Finch
yeah.
said it again.
Yeah,
Everyone
Finch
keeps
loves to
trying to.
say things, man. Finch has got
Yeah.
to stop saying it because he's not going to put him at the three. There's no
No,
way.
everyone keeps trying to forget that Nas might play the three, and then and then Finch brings it back up
I know.
every season with Britt in this same interview. He's got an
He's
addiction.
lying. He's lying
Yeah,
because he won't do it. So yeah,
yeah.
that's my thing with Finch, man. He's a liar. But anyways,
Mhm.
whatever.
I
But
think
yeah, I
he's an
mean, Nas Reed.
idealist where he
Yeah,
has all these ideas in the off season. Then it gets into the season, he's like, "Shit, I got to win some games here. Like, there's no way I'm putting Nas Reed at the three."
yeah,
Yeah, but
man.
I think it's a great point that you make. Is how do you grow? Like, how do you not break out, but how do you continue to have this trajectory where you're becoming, a sixth man, a starter, a sub all star, an all star. And not that he's never going to get to that level, but like obviously that would be his plans for himself.
Right.
How do you get there when your minutes don't change, when you're not getting starter minutes, when you're not, being treated, I guess, as one of the stars of the team? Not to say they're treating him badly, but just in terms of like minute load and usage and production and how often you're on the court in big moments and to begin games, like in these kind of areas. So how does Nas, because he's not going to average 20 points a game. Like that's not an option for Nas Reed if he's playing 24 minutes a night. Like, so do you get small, like do you improve in small areas that I guess don't show up on the stat sheet? Because like it feels like Nas averaging, I don't know what he averaged, maybe 15 and 6 or something for the season. Like
Yeah, no
it
way to find
feels
out either. That's
Yeah, there's no, I don't know, there's no thing. The internet, I believe, is a thing. So he averaged 14.2 points and 6 rebounds. Like
nice. Yeah, you were right
that
on.
feel, yeah, that feels like at a pretty high level of what you can average coming off the bench.
Yeah,
Like I don't know, he played 27 minutes a night, so it's hard to imagine that he's going to, he's going to have this big boom in numbers, but can you become a better finisher at the rim? Like he only finished, I think, around 54% of his 2 point shots last season, 66% in the playoffs. So can you get to that playoff level where you're making, a lot of shots at the rim and finishing better? Can you rebound better? Can you defend better? Things that probably won't show up on the stat sheet. Like even if Nas is a better rebounder, he's probably not going to average 8, 9 rebounds a game. It might be 6.7 instead of 6.0. So, like, I guess it's for Nas, it's can you do the little things without ever getting the rewards on the stat sheet, which is a hard thing
right.
to ask any player because if Ant has a really great season, he might average 32 points a game and be, an MVP. Like if Nas is kind of capped at sixth man of the year, and even then, there's a lot of great six men in the league, and so I don't think Nas is that he's not a selfish player. He's not a player who's I think is playing for stats, but it is tough to ask a player to
He's
just
human.
go to work on all the little things.
Yeah,
He was obviously really bad defensively in the playoffs. I think he's a little not underrated, but I think people are on his case a little bit too much for the regular season defensively. I thought he was playing the five, which is just not his position. I don't expect Nas to ever be a good defender at like a Rudy Gobert kind of, rim protector. I think he's a switchy kind of fly around defender. And I think he was good in those situations in the regular season, but he was terrible in the playoffs at them. So if we get a Nas Reed who rebounds 6% better If we get a Naz Reid who defends 10% better, if we get a Naz Reid who gets his 3-point shooting back up into the 40s, it was at 37.9% last season. It was at 41.4 the season before. So it's incremental stuff with Naz. I think that you're just looking for him to be a bit more consistent. And yeah, just be a player that can be relied on to do certain things every single night rather than being like, some nights he's going to be better defensively. Some nights he's going to be better at finishing at the rim. Like, can he just be a consistent, peak bench Naz Reid?
Yep. Yeah, and he's in his, second or his first big contract, but just second contract here. He's 26 years old. Like he's not this young, fun story anymore, right? Like, oh, sixth man. Like, no, I mean he's genuinely like one of the best sixth men in the league, if not the best. So,
Yeah.
you'd want to be moving up if you were him, and he probably eventually will. So,
And if
intrigued
he
to see
wants
what
to,
this
and
year
if he
looks
wants
like.
to start as well, if he wants to be the guy who does, knock Randall out of the rotation, or be the reason I guess Randall is traded because they have
Right.
such a good backup option. Like he does need to prove that he's more consistent.
Yes. Yeah.
And become, a favorite of Finch's, I guess, because of that consistency.
Yeah. Totally agree. We got the answer there, consistency. So moving on then, Mike Conley is up next, and we got a few more here. We'll see what we got time for. But for Conley, he started basically every game of his career. Like he didn't start 20 in his second season, but I mean after that it's like, oh, dogs barking. But he starts basically every single game. So I'm wondering, for a guy like Conley, he may be approaching a season where there's a real competition, maybe halfway through, maybe to start the season, a real competition for that starting spot, either via, DiVincenzo or Dillingham, who are two different players with different play styles. But like, I wonder how he approaches going into this year that could look so much different for him. I think he's the type of player that can very easily adjust on the fly and really might have no problem with it. I think we have seen him, come off the bench after coming off injury. So it's not something I'm like worried about, but just similar to Nas, I guess, getting into the mindset of like a role that is shifting where you might be, haven't really done it before. It's interesting with Mike Conley, who's entering a year 19 and a player we've mentioned a lot as just kind of hitting a sharp decline for sure offensively. So, yeah, I mean, what's it like for him maybe coming off the bench and being replaced by two players that are completely different in their play style,
Yeah. And I guess along with that is, how much was this injury that we keep hearing about?
Right.
Like, how much that affected his season last season?
Maybe he
Or was
starts
it,
every game, like maybe I'm wrong.
and I think he'll start to begin the season. I don't
For sure.
think I probably wouldn't myself, but I think that, Finch trusts him and Finch wants players he trusts. So I understand why he would. But yeah, was it this wrist hand injury that kind of blew up his whole season? Like in terms of, fantasy football, like a fantasy football over here, fantasy football there. I always have a set rule that if someone misses preseason or misses training camp, then I will not select them in my team. I expect anyone who misses training camp and misses preseason to have a bad season. And I think that's pretty consistently right with a lot of players. And maybe they get their legs under them halfway through the season, but like that's such an important time for players to not only bed in with the team and figure out what's going on the court, but also just to get their legs under them to get the conditioning that they need for a full season. If Conley was out, not training, doing whatever while he was injured during the preseason, I would accept that, I guess, as a reason for why he should never just get his rhythm. Where that theory kind of falls off for me is he got his rhythm halfway through the season, which makes sense. And then he was terrible in the playoffs. So to your point, if it's not coming off the bench, if it's not, having all your minutes cut or whatever, like, can we somehow get Mike Conley to the end of the season and have him fresh for the playoffs? Because that's 2 seasons in a row now where he hasn't been fresh for the playoffs. He, popped his Achilles, I think, not popped it, but, he had an Achilles injury, I think, in the...
That was dramatic, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say popped his calf, and then I chose Achilles, which is a lot worse. Was that the Mavs series that he was injured, or the end of the very last possession of the Denver series or something? Like,
right.
which is an old man's injury. The calf is the old man's injury. So it's like, can we get Mike Conley to get through a playoff run healthy and productive? Because we haven't got that so far. And that's, to me, screams age and screams over-reliance on him throughout the regular season. If he needs to play, does he need to play 70 games? Does he need to play 25 minutes a game for 70 games? Because, I mean, I don't know, outside of LeBron, KD, like, are there any other players that his age that are doing that, especially small point guards? Like,
Right. The
and
position
and
matters.
yeah, and not all, and like LeBron and KD are obviously two of the best players that ever play. So, and Conley's obviously been a great player, but he's not that. So, I think they need. I just think it should be non-negotiable. Mark, you're playing 55 games this year. You're playing
Yeah.
60 games. Like, we have Rob there that we want to trial. We have Dante who can play next to Ant. You know, we think that we can kind of fill this position by committee if you're not there. And frankly, I would rather lose 4 more games in the regular season, which I don't think Conley's really worth 4 wins in totality. But like, if they think it, I would rather lose 4 more games, be the 6th seed, than be the 3rd seed and have Mike Conley just be unable to get through games in the playoffs, like unable to finish at the rim, unable to, hold up defensively, unable to just get through a series without getting injured, because that's what we've seen the last two seasons.
Yeah.
So yeah, that needs to be the number one with me with Conley, is like, we think he can help us in the playoffs because he is a player that makes sense in the playoffs. Like, we had a little bit of a conductor, someone to calm everyone down, make 3-point shots, take some pressure off Ant with the ball handling. But if he's on his last legs by the Western Conference Finals, the whole season hasn't mattered. You know what I mean? Playing those 70 games doesn't mean shit if you're like, he can't get through 3-4 series. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
where I'm at with Conley.
And I mean, the answer of like, can he enter the playoffs fresh is no. Like, he's entering his age 38 season. It's just how can we limit the damage that he's going to enter into the playoffs with? Because yeah, 38 is, I mean, that's 100 in basketball years. So
Yeah.
it really is. Like, I mean, he's not going to enter the playoffs fresh. That's just not
Yeah,
something
but
the
can
Wolves can
he
bank on
not?
at
Yeah,
all.
if he's a percentile as a fresh human being, can he be like
Right.
50th percentile instead of 10th?
Right.
You know,
That has to
like,
be the goal. Yep.
yeah,
We'll see. All right. You got time for a couple more?
yeah, I got time.
All right, we'll do Dillingham. So he's a very interesting player, as I've mentioned 107 times now on the pods we've done. It's just on a team of guys that don't exactly excel at getting to the rim. Do we think that is a skill that Rob can maximize to carve out a legitimate, consistent role on the team? Just some numbers. He was 84th percentile among point guards on shot attempts at the rim. He made 53% of his 186 drives, which was second among all rookies. Again, his role was fluctuating. He didn't exactly get consistent minutes, but can being a legitimate playmaker and scorer inside of the arc, leave room for the three-pointer and defense to grow as he carves out that
Mhm,
consistent every game role. Because like we just mentioned with Conley, he's going to need to play probably 55 games. And then
mhm.
you need Rob Dillingham to really, really fill in from there. So, can he really carve out that role by being an inside the arc playmaker and scorer? We saw flashes of it last season. If he can improve on that, that may be the way to go, even at his size.
Yeah, I completely agree that's what's there for him. I think Finch keeps saying it as well. Like, that's what they want him to do. It's what they expect him to do. That's what's going to make him a viable option on this team. So, and yeah, for me, it's a lot of kind of what you're saying is like, you got to take your chance now, Rob. Like, I think we all understand last season why he kind of ebbed and flowed confidence wise. I think you could see about halfway through the season that his confidence kind of it had died off. The start of the season, every time he did on the floor, it was like, God, Rob looks good. Like,
I mean, dude,
and
there was
then
that quote where he was in the locker room with Ant, like, do you guys not want me to play with you or something? That was like,
yeah,
Jesus Christ.
the saddest thing I've ever heard. Yeah. So this season, I think you understand that young players are going to have confidence dips and peaks, but he needs that. That's also a skill. Like, it's a skill to stay confident and to be able to have that next play ability that Finch said. Like Ant is a superstar not just because he's supremely talented, but because he has full belief in what he's doing all the time. And with players like Ant and players like Rob, Rob's in this category where like Rob can do things that are kind of, not normal. Like he's really fast. He's got great handles. He has this kind of that X factor ability to his game. The difference between him and an Anthony Edwards, apart from the obvious kind of talent size, but is that Ant can make 10 mistakes in a row and keep making that and keep doing what he thinks is the right thing and keep playing his game. Whereas it felt like Rob went into his shell too often last season when things were going wrong. And even in Summer League this season a bit, it still was happening. So like you're going to get the chance to play, but I don't think Finch is going to give him a I don't know what I'm trying to say, like a leash that can't be pulled back on, like if you don't play well, if you don't exude that confidence, if you don't stamp your talents on a game, then those minutes will lessen. Jalen Clark might start taking your minutes. Like
Right.
This season is more, I think last season was more, look, we can blame Finch. Finch doesn't want to play him, whatever reason. This season, I think the blame will be on Dillingham if he doesn't end up getting a consistent role. So yeah, I guess like you were saying, can you and to do with that consistent role is can you do those things that you were saying? Can you get to the rim? Can you finish at the rim? Can you make plays for others at the rim? Can you throw lobs? If he just came in and threw 3 lobs to Rudy a game, I feel like Finch would just keep playing him because he's like, well, we need someone who can do it. Like, can you find your niche on this team? Do the things that this team can't do. Make yourself, unexpendable.
Right.
Like
because he's going to be expendable from like 3-point at times in the defense. Yeah, so he's got to find
exactly. Like if you play with the best pace on the team, if you find Rudy the most often, if you
hit a layup,
if you're the most likely to break a defense down off the dribble from anyone that isn't Anthony Edwards, like all of a sudden you cannot be replaced on this team. Yep. So I think that's probably what they're telling him is there's a niche there for Rob Dillingham, and if he just plays within that niche, he's going to get minutes and he's going to have a chance to really build his career.
Yeah, it's again super interesting with him, and we'll just do a little Dante DiVincenzo and then we'll get out of here. So DiVincenzo, this one again was a little hard just because we kind of know what his role is going to be, but I guess with a lack of true point guards on the team, DiVincenzo could be asked to like play more minutes at that position this season. And I just kind of wonder, with his best traits obviously being scoring from beyond the arc as 1, 2, and 3 for what he does, how does he maximize something like that while maybe playing the position of point guard? And for me, I mean, it would be Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle handle the ball more while Dante is slotted in at the 1 or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's a thing he might have to play more often just with the depth chart. So can he adjust to that? Can he maximize his minutes there? Because last season was up and down. So intriguing.
Yeah, and I mean, I've said it a million times that I think that's the thing for Dante is that he's going to be like a nominal point guard, but it's going to be Randle and Edwards that are going to be playing the point guard in those minutes. So I think for Dante, it's how can you build a synergy? Like I think he's got a pretty good synergy with Randle. How can you build a really good synergy with Anthony Edwards? How can you be the guy that, again, a bit like Rob, like how can you make yourself the perfect fit again alongside those guys? Because if you're the perfect fit alongside Ant and Randle, you're playing 32 minutes a night, whether you like it or not, and I'm sure he would. And if Conley's old, and if Conley, it wasn't his wrist and he is just old, if Dillingham's struggling, like if all of a sudden it's like, damn, every time Dante and Ant are together, this team looks awesome. Every time Randle, Ant, and Dante are together, there's this trio of scorers, and, Dante's moving without the ball, and providing options for these on-ball guys, and making his threes, obviously, and doing the other things that he can do without being kind of chaotic like he can be as well. It's just like how can you find that flow within the offense with those two guys and still, be productive as a shooter, I guess. So, yeah, I think that's the thing for Dante. We can go through the last two here.
All right. I don't want you to miss your Super Bowl.
No, I've got a few hours, but I've got people coming over and stuff, and I've got some things to do. My house is a pigsty, and I have a child that just continues to ruin it every second of the day. But we've got Jalen Clark and Terrence Shannon Jr. I think with TJ, we kind of like we've spoke about TJ so often that where it's like
Yeah. Well, I kind
we
of looped them together for my written down question, I guess.
yeah.
And
All right, here we go.
it's an intriguing one, I guess. And I guess I'd wonder like what kind of players do these guys watch to maximize their skill sets for teach or at least to maximize their fit into this team.
Oh,
You
I
know?
love this. I love the compare.
Yeah.
I want to like what. Who do you have any option? Like, who do you think is a comparison for these two guys? Obviously, it doesn't have to be 1-to-1. They're young players. It's not going to be perfect, but
Right.
like, who do you want to see them play like to maximize who they are?
Okay. TJ Shannon, let me know if this makes any sense. I think the little Jimmy Butler on offense makes some sense. I don't know about the mid-range shooting and all that, but I think Jimmy just plays confidently and he can get the ball. I don't know. He's quick. At least maybe more so
Yeah,
in his prime. But
and
it's a
he's
tough
not.
one.
I
Yeah.
think with Jimmy, he's not like super explosive going downhill. He's not super like as in with the ball. He's not this quick, shifty guard. Like he's more of like powerful.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you were saying have I lost you here? I might have.
Can you hear me?
Okay, we're back.
Okay.
I think we're back.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. So with Jimmy, I think if I was to say to TJ, if you were to tell me what one thing that Jimmy has that I want TJ to have, it would be the craft. You know, the nous,
Yeah.
the way that Jimmy pump fakes and gets players off these feet, the way that he uses his angles. Like he's a master of that, Jimmy. So I think TJ's got the size. He's got that like downhill mentality. He's not going to shoot threes, similar to Jimmy. Really, he's not searching for threes. Can you get some of that like old man skill? You know, where you know the defender, you know the lead, you know your angles. That's a fun one. I mean, one that is like ridiculous, but just in terms of play style, is it just like, hey, we want you to play like Giannis? Like,
Yeah, I guess I was looking at him and like I was like, I can't see that.
Yeah, if you get the ball, just go to the rim. Like
Right,
that's what
pretty much.
Giannis does, and that I think, like I want to see him prove again, or I guess I'm curious is like, I still don't feel like anyone has proven to me that they can be more athletic than TJ Shannon on the court, like on any court, any player. Can someone stop TJ Shannon going downhill? Because I don't think we haven't seen a big enough sample size to know that they can, but also in the small sample size, they can't. OKC couldn't in multiple games last season, and they're the gold standard. Like, if he has a running head start, either a little outlet pass to half court, like, and it doesn't even have to be full transition. There might be 4 players back. If he has a running head start, can you stop him? Because that's a bit Giannis-y. It's obviously Giannis is one of the greatest players of all time, but
it's not a one to. It's hard to say the name and
or
compare.
is it Zion-y? Like where it's like
I like that one
not
even more. I think
he's not big, really. I think what's Zion 6'6", 6'7"? Like, they're probably similar size in terms of height. I mean, maybe now Zion's looking lean.
Yeah, what the hell?
But yeah, they run this offense through Zion where it's like he doesn't shoot a single three. He just catches at the elbow, like, goes downhill, forces free throws. That one kind of seems cool to me as well. In terms
I've
of
been a big Zion to the Wolves guy in the past, so maybe
I
they just
like
Zion here.
I'm seeing Zion live next weekend. They're down in Australia for their first preseason game. So I will report back with a Zion Ozempic update.
Thanks.
I mean, Julius Randle's kind of a
weird... I just didn't want to do that one because it was too like, you're sticking with
Yeah.
the Wolves. Can't think of anything outside the box. But
All right, give me one for Jalen Clark, because obviously the same thing with Clark is, can you defend? Like, that's the question: is can you defend? Can you play offense good enough to stay on the floor? Like, that's
Maybe this one was more of like, this player he's not going to be flashy. He's not going to, but he doesn't get taken out, or he played a long time. Someone like a PJ Tucker type, where it's just like, you'll hit a three and you're going to play hard, like, and you play your style well enough where you play what he played a lot of years. Is he still around?
He might still be on a team, or he might have been still on a team last season.
Yeah, he was last year at least. Jesus, 18 years.
Yeah. And can you? I think a weird one that's not kind of body type wise, maybe even not even offensively, just defensively, is like, I mean, Dyson Daniels from last season, who is just like, it's almost pure chaos more than it is like Jaden McDaniels lock you down, contest your shots, everything. I think Clark is more like, think Clark's at his best when he's getting steals, which is not the perfect way to, prescribe a good defense. But like Clark is better when he's coming in from behind someone, taking the ball. He's drifting off his man to cut off a pass. That's a bit Dyson Daniels-y. Josh Hart, no. I'm just looking through players as
Okay.
Josh Hart. I think he does
just
too
disagreeing
much.
with yourself. You just
Yeah, I was. Yeah. Like
body
Chris
type
Dunn.
like Josh Hart or Chris Dunn. Yeah.
Chris Dunn is similar, where he's kind of smaller point guard size, but he's not a point guard. Chris Dunn was insanely good defensively last
I
year.
refuse to like believe he's good just because I'm scarred from his Wolves tenure, but like he's solid, man.
My hindsight take is that I always thought he was an insane. He was so good defensively when he was just so much worse offense, and he's still bad offensively, and he's grown a lot, which is shows how bad he was when he was here. But I always thought he should be an NBA player. But yeah, maybe that kind of player where it's like you just derive so much value from your defense that it makes it hard. Like it made it hard for the Clippers to take Chris Dunn off the court. And obviously in the playoffs, it can get a bit weird. Dunn didn't have a great playoffs, but it's like during the regular season, those guys win you games. Like Chris Dunn won the Clippers games just by being such a solid point of attack defender, chaos creator defensively. So
it's a luxury to have him as your ninth guy. Like,
yeah,
I'll absolutely take that for sure.
I've been thinking a lot lately and watching some film. I just think it's going to be hard to. Like, I think Dillingham and Jalen Clark should probably play a lot of minutes together because I think that they don't really have that lockdown defender off the bench anymore that they did with Nikhil, who was
like besides Clark.
Yeah, besides Clark. Yeah,
okay,
besides
okay.
Clark. But you know what I mean? Like, they don't have Nikhil there.
Oh, because last year they had both. Okay.
Yeah. Nikhil would often, when Rob was getting minutes, it would be Nikhil on the ball, and you kind of hide Rob on whoever you could. I just don't think that Rob's ever going to be a guy who can like take point of attack defensive matchups consistently at all. So who are you playing him with? Like, is it Jaden? You know what I mean? Is it Clark? Like Clark seems like an ideal guy to be like, all right, we're going to put Rob and Clark in. Rob's going to, do the offense stuff. Clark's going to do the defense stuff. And that's how we're going to get by with some of these young guy minutes.
And then you look at the rotation, you go, this doesn't work. We can't play all these guys. So it's weird.
Finch said again that he wanted to play 10, but I think he kind of talked himself out of it mid-sentence and ended up saying, I think it'll be 9 with like spot minutes for a 10th guy or a rotating 9th guy.
Which is better than last year where it was like 8 and then an occasional guy for 9 or like 5 minutes would be the 9th guy. So if he can add the 9th guy consistently, all right, Finch. All right.
I think that's happening. I do think that's happening. I think at this point I'd be pretty disappointed if we see an 8-man rotation on any single night. Like,
well, especially Conley, Gobert. We talk about them, being fossils at this point. So it's like,
but yeah, that's the roster. Obviously, there's other guys out there that we're not gonna, we are strapped for time, so we're not going to talk about Bones Highland or, Johan Barron, Jesse Edwards. Yeah. he's obligatory mention on the podcast.
Yep.
Finish off, but yeah, next week, man. Next week we're going to have a game. I think at this time, maybe today. 1 week from now, I think they play the Nuggets in the preseason game.
Timberwolves schedule. Saturday, October 4th, 9 p.m. God damn it. All right.
Oh, that's good for me. I like that.
Yeah, that's good for you. We might have ripped. I don't know if we want to record before the preseason game, so it might be a Saturday recording. Or no, that would be on a Saturday. Whatever. We're going to figure it out next week. It's on a Saturday at 9 p.m., so we'll figure it out after that.
I am going to go and start drinking beer.
Nice.
And it's 8:56
What's your team called? Just so we can like look it up.
My team is called the Brisbane Lions. You can see this is
Brisbane Lions.
Brisbane, the place.
Brisbane Lions. Sorry,
Brisbane is how you would spell it. Yeah. Lions. We are playing the Geelong Cats. And
Cats? That's kind of lame.
Yeah, just cat. Yeah, I mean we're the Lions, so it's a battle of the cats. The big cat versus the little small cats.
Yeah, very broad term. All right.
Our best player is injured, so
that sucks.
Yeah. So I'm not. Look,
Eagles 2017 Super Bowl. Their quarterback was out. Nick Foles stepped in. All right.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
We're going for the miracle on grass today. So yeah, you'll see me next week, and I might still be hungover regardless.
Nice. We're cheering for it.
All right, cool.
Or we're not. No one's paying attention
No.
to it, but we're yeah.
If one person messages me about the game, I'll be happy.
Good stuff. All right, man. This was fun as always, and we'll be back next week. Peace.
All right.